We are live. Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome to another live broadcast here on Samba Journey's YouTube platform. So glad that you guys are here. Remember, we're also on TikTok. I don't post too often on there, but I am on there. So if you're on TikTok, make sure you check us out over just do a search for Samba Journeys, same name as this channel here, and give us a follow. Check us out, okay? Well, welcome. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Today, another boycott. And this makes, I don't know what, in the last year, we've had about 3 different boycotts. We'll track a little bit of it, and it lets you know just, oh boy. But anyway, we're going to look at it closely and take a calm look at it. We're going to be very calm about it. We're going to look at it. We're going to look at a little bit of history. All right. And specifically talking about black businesses, where can you build the black economy on protest money? You know, can you build it on boycotts? We're going to take an honest look at that. Okay. And then we're going to look at some examples, some positive examples of one particular black family that is actually doing it right, you know, in terms of having a business that just so happens to be owned by black people. So we're going to look at that and what is their secret sauce. We're going to take a look at that. Okay. But other than that, so glad that you guys are here. We're going to give you about a minute or so to get on board, to grab your drink and your food or whatever. And we're just going to get right into it. Okay. Give us about a minute and we'll get started. Welcome.
In the sun, sweet on my tongue. Every step she takes, a rhythm begun. Yeah. She's cocoa, she's velvet, she's all I need. A sugar rush, walking, a living dream indeed. Her laughter smooth like caramel streams. She's the spark, she's the cream in my dreams. Chocolate girl, oh, you rock my world. Sweet like a kiss, yeah. Let your love unfurl. Chocolate.
All right. About another 30 seconds and we're going to get started.
Smile like a candy shop glow. Every word she speaks, it's a sugar flow. Her eyes, they shine like a cocoa night. She's the flavor I crave, she's my delight. She's the taste I can't ignore. One bite leaves me wanting more. Bittersweet and oh, so divine. Chocolate girl, oh yeah. Chocolate girl, you're forever mine.
All right. Welcome. And I know many of you have been asking, man, where you get that music from? Where can I get that music? I always see that comment all the time. Pull up. All you got to do is just scroll down in our community post page right here on YouTube. And I don't know how many posts down, but just keep scrolling down. I actually have a link that you can go to where you can actually download it for free. Okay, so that's just a little bit of our music. If you want our full collection of music, of course, you can go to sambatree.com and we have actual albums that we put together. And you could check that out over there as well, over on sambatree.com. Well, anyway, good to see you guys here. Welcome. I hope you guys had a wonderful day. Right now, I am looking at 103 degrees here in sunny Arizona. Another hot day, but it's not just hot here. It actually does get humid out here too. Last night before I went to bed, I was looking outside the window and you could just see the lightning going across the sky and all that. It was quite beautiful, quite a sight to see, which meant that it was raining somewhere. The one thing about here is that one of the reasons why the Phoenix area doesn't get a lot of rain is because think of a bowl, right? We are literally surrounded by mountains. And from what I have come to understand, okay, and this is people who've been here a lot longer than I have, I've read up on this. Apparently, many of the rain clouds can't make it over the mountain. And so what ends up happening is that rain just stays up in the mountains. And that's why you have this whole series of aqueducts all throughout the city and in the area. I mean, it's because it's all coming from those mountains, because when it rains out there, they're able to pull from that water and use it for a number of things here in the Phoenix Valley. And but we get the humidity though. Oh my gosh. We get the humidity, and along with the high temperatures as well. So it's really something out there today. So I hope you got, how's it in your neck of the woods? How's it? Is it a little bit cooler? I'm sure it is cooler than where I am. And I hope you guys are having a wonderful day and the start of a wonderful week. Let's just keep telling ourselves that, okay? Anyway, so today we're going to talk about, yet another boycott. We've been around this mountain how many times, y'all? We're going to look at this latest boycott, and is this going to be it? Is this going to be the catalyst? Is this the one where we're going to see an economic boost in the black community and all of that? Well, let's take a look at it. All we're going to do is look at history, because history basically will tell us and let us know if it will work or not. We don't have to guess. We can just look right at history. We're going to look at that. We're also going to look at the current state, because we hear oftentimes, one of the things I know I've been hearing a lot of is, and I'm sure many of you have too, because it really is amped up, is this whole mindset that the world is they just love us, and they just love our culture so much, and they just want us so bad, and they just want us, they want to emulate us and everything, but they don't love us. They don't love us, but they just want everything we have. Well, that's actually true. You're actually on the money on that. Why is that, though? You never want to ask the why. And so the reason why I mention that is because it ties in to what we're going to be talking about today, and with businesses and all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about, the current, we're going to look at the details of this latest boycott and where things are getting missed once again, why there is even a angst, if you will. And then we're going to finish off with a positive example, a good example of one black family that's actually doing it right. So we're going to look at that as well. So so if you're someone that's an entrepreneur or just love, talking about business and all that, well, this will be the broadcast for you. We'll get into it and talk about it. So, my family and I, we've been doing our thing in entrepreneur space for well over 25 years. Yeah, 25 years now. We've had my wife and I, we literally got married, and I quit my job like the day I got married, and we launched right into owning our own restaurant, and then we went to other things and all of that. Lots of learning experiences along the way. So so we're not just doing chat GPT stuff here, okay? We're talking from experience. But anyway, good to see you guys here. As always, good to see everybody in the chat. If you're brand new to the channel, welcome. Really appreciate that, and hope you guys stick around and all of that. Anyway, real quick as we get in, speaking of entrepreneurship and business, we actually have our own. It's Samba Tree, sambatree.com. Not going to get all into it and give you, this is the part where he's going to be spending a lot of time going to. No, actually, no, because we want to get right into it today. But we are going to, I just want to highlight just one particular thing here that I want to make sure you guys don't miss, is this right here. And this is, we just released this very important ebook. It's called Whole Mouth Medicine. This is something that my wife actually put together. And and it's all about ancestral oral healing from Africa and the Caribbean and beyond. And there's a beautifully put together book here that we have on sale right now. Let me see if I can get it right here. Okay, so let me just show you. I'm gonna scroll all the way to the beginning here. Obviously, I'm not gonna read all of it, but I just wanted to show you just kind of what it looks like here when you get it. It's right here, Whole Health Medicine. That's us in the beginning there. She gives a whole outline, how to use the guide. And then here's the table of contents, talking about just before toothpaste, what people used to do, recipes and formula, ancient habits, modern mouths, Africa's foreign dental traditions, indigenous oral health traditions of the Americas, the tooth meridian charts, biological dentistry and modern perspectives, ingredient references, plants of histories. I mean, she literally just goes in and gives a wealth of information, pulling from what our ancestors used to do when taking care of their teeth, the different herbs that are used, and not just naming herbs and just keeping it moving, but also telling you how to use them, because that's very important. A lot of times people just tell you, oh yeah, they used to use this, that, or whatever, but where we get stuck is how to use them. And so this book here beautifully lets you know the different recipes on how you can make your own toothpaste. If you're out there still using Crest gel and Colgate and all of that, you can't do that. You got to stop doing that. When they say 4 out of 5 dentists recommend it, of course they will, because they know the little amount of sugar and ingredients they put in there will have your butt back into their chair where they can make a ton of money off of you. So of course 4 out of 5 dentists would recommend it. You ever wonder what the 5th dentist, when they say 4 out of 5 dentists, why they never mention the 5th dentist and why he didn't recommend it? You notice they never ask that. They don't steer you to that. Gee, I wonder why they never mention him. He's just like a ghost. Anyway, so check out this book here, wonderfully put together. Again, it's on sambatree.com, and we have all kinds of other great products on there, all natural, of course, ranging from things from your eyes, blue blocker glasses. We have our own line of supplements. We even have our own line of coffee. Yeah, we came up with our own coffee line. We work with a roaster and all of that. So we got a whole lot of stuff there for you. Make sure you check us out again, sambatree.com. Again, the website is sambatree.com. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. And like I said, as always, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate that. Those in the chat, good to see you guys. So yeah, so we do have right now, oh my goodness, we have another boycott in the works right now. And the boycott right now, according to social media, is against the Asian community. I mean, that's quite a big community since you have a lot of people who are considered Asian. And so from what we can see is that this particular boycott is pointed towards Koreans and Chinese, because that's the groups that keep coming up. And so it's when they say Asian, I guess what we're talking about now is the Koreans and the Chinese. Black folks now, all of a sudden, we don't like them anymore, and it's all stems from this court case that took place where we saw the unfortunate death of a young boy, Mr. Cyrus, getting shot and killed by a Chinese store owner in Columbia, South Carolina. You already know the story. And so black folks said, that's it. We're done with all Asian stores. We're not going to use them anymore, so forth and so on. And so that's what kicked this off. Okay, so, but we're going to get into some details here, but let's just rewind a little bit. Did you know that within a year, within 12 months, we have seen at least a call for at least 3 different boycotts? And so we got to ask ourselves, okay, where is this leading? Is it effective, or are we just pouting? And so anyway, so the first one and this is within the span of 12 months, was all of a sudden out of the blue when we're going to boycott all the Africans, all the African shops, all the Caribbean shops. We're going to boycott them. I remember during that time. Again, this is under 12 months. You had black folks that were taking to social media talking about how nasty African food smells, and Caribbean food, how much it's awful and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you guys are a different type. I actually quite enjoy African food. There's some things I'm not gonna touch, but there's other things I really do enjoy. But and then Caribbean food, come on. I mean, and so so I remember seeing people saying it smelled like all of this stuff, and just making fun of these restaurants and the owners and all of that, and also going after the African women or Caribbean women who own braiding shops. And I remember us talking about it was this I want to say she's from Africa. I don't know which exact country, but it's considered the largest braiding space, one of the largest. I would say probably the largest it was in the Maryland area, and I forgot how many seats they had. They said this thing was huge. It was huge. And so many black folks were getting online and were hoping, because she was saying so excited because it was a grand opening and was inviting everyone to come and all this other stuff. But you had quite a few black folks on social media who were getting on and saying, telling people don't go there, we can't support them and all of that. Well, come to find out, from what I saw, she had a very successful opening. A lot of people went there, and from what I can understand, are still going there, and she's doing quite well, So, and then there was other places too where they were saying don't go to these African places or don't go to these Caribbean places. So that we had that. We also have the boycott against Target. You remember that one? Well, why is there this big call against Target? Well, because Target doesn't support the gays and the trans. That's right. That's what the boycott was all about. It was about the gays and the trans, because it certainly wasn't about black folks. Because as we've said millions of times by now on this platform, and that is DEI does not benefit black folks on the scale that people think it does. It's a small percentage of black folks actually benefit from DEI. The overwhelming majority of people who were benefiting from it were white women and LGBTQ, and maybe to a small extent black women, but for the most part it wasn't a black thing. But yet you had the Jamal Bryants of the world and all of these other people leading these boycotts and saying we're going to take down Target. Target is evil. And that didn't, that went until whatever. Again, all of this, I want you to keep in mind, is on the land of social media. Okay. And then we have the boycott against all Asian stores. And there's, if you go on TikTok or whatever, you'll see, black women that are going into these stores and black men. I just remember there's one video I'll show you in a moment here. And they are like threatening black folks who are going into these stores. You better not go in this store. I mean, you're going into their establishment and telling black customers they need to get out. That don't sound right, does it? Well, let me show you this one video of this guy, what he did. Let me see if I can pull this up here. And I'm going to leave it up to you. Do you think this is the appropriate action to take if you're doing a boycott? Let's see. Trying to pull it up. I think I may have figured out my the problem I was having with X when I would try to show y'all videos. I'm hoping I figured it out. Okay, here it is. Because I had a huge problem where I would save stuff and then it would just all of a sudden reorganize it while I'm trying to show y'all. Let me show you this video here. This is the kind of stuff that people are just uploading on social media. I mean, you literally are incriminating yourself. Take a listen here and watch. Okay, watch this.
Step away from the window.
Let y'all know this is the second time I've been here with this shop disrespecting black women. This is over with. Last time, it's gonna happen. Y'all step away from this window, or y'all stay here, continue to support these people that continue to disrespect y'all. And when black men stand up for y'all by these clowns disrespecting us, we're gonna get the support we need from y'all. Y'all get away from that. Y'all come on out.
Come on out. Y'all need to come on out. You've been warned. We're gonna shut it down.
Thank you.
All right. No problem.
Move.
All right.
Move. I told you to move.
That's not right. And somebody should call the police right now.
You get 911.
I told you to come out.
Come out. Come out.
Back it up. The brother said he wasn't playing. He's not playing. He said he wasn't playing. He is not playing. That's okay. He know. He know. You got another one.
Yeah.
Take it in.
I got mine. Stop playing. Y'all play too much. We talk too much.
That's it.
Quit playing. Stop disrespecting black women. I ain't say what I'm
Don't move. Don't move. Just put it in your
not
pocket.
running. I'm not hiding. I'm not gonna keep doing it.
Yep. Come on up out of there.
Back it up, sister.
Ain't no question.
Yeah, okay.
So this is what happens when somebody stands up. He stood up. He stood up. He told you what it's gonna be. He stood up.
And he came out and he did what he needed to do.
He did what was in his heart to do.
Yes.
He's out. He's done it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, Tyrone. Coming up out of there. Y'all come up out of there.
Yeah.
Where are you sisters taking them? Which station is this?
Come on up out of there.
It's me, ma'am. Thank you. What station are you taking them to? This is 6th District?
Yeah, 78 and home.
Thank you. We headed to 78th and Halsted for Tyrone Muhammad.
Told everybody to come on now. He said what he said. He did a little bit of talking, and he took care of his business. He's been tired. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Power to the people. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Black power. Thank you, Tyrone.
So you see what happened. So does that look like that's how you think it should be done? These people are just simply running a business. You can't just go and talk to the people. You can't just do that. You got to go with a brick and literally you actually have black women that were in there that were getting their nails done. These people are conducting business or whatever. I am not going to sit up here and say that all these businesses treat black women with the utmost respect or anything like that. What I am saying is that in a civilized society, you have to be civil in how you react or respond to certain things. How about, I do have a suggestion. How about not go there? Yeah. How about if the business isn't giving you the service that you want, how about not just go there? I mean, how about just not do that? Why does it have to escalate to this? Okay. I got other videos too I'm going to show you or whatever, but here's the thing I want to make very, very clear here, and I'm going to bring an image up here in a moment on the screen, is that let's be clear. And like I said, I always have to make this very clear to people who are very slow. And that is that I'll just say this, the social media noise that we're hearing is just that. It's just social media noise. It's not real life. As I've said many times before, we looked at the studies and we've showed you that out of all the people groups here in the United States, by and large, Black Americans lead all of them in the amount of time, screen time, that we put in on social media. The most popular apps, social media apps for Black Americans, obviously is going to be TikTok and X, followed by Instagram and then Facebook to a lesser extent. But TikTok is number one, X is right under that, and that's it. We went all into details. We looked at all of that. So if we're the most consumers, if we're the biggest consumers of social media, I told you this is a very dangerous thing. And, because what ends up happening is you begin to see whatever come across your timeline as real life. But in reality, you and I both know that is not real life. It's not real life. All of this boycott talk, it is not real life. I do want to show you. Let me see if I can. Did I download this or not? If not, I can get easily and quickly get it because I do have it somewhere. Okay, here it is right here. And I may reference this a little bit later, but I do want to bring this up on the screen here. There we go. Okay, so right here. Because I want people to have a basic understanding as we get into this, okay? All right, so here we go. So you got two groups of black folks right now, okay, when we're talking about the black economy, if you will, all right? So on the left-hand side, you have black folks who just, everyday black folks who get online, they're familiar with the internet, they're not dummies. They're clicked in on what goes on social media and all of that, but they're not always on it. You know what I mean? They just live their lives. They're not following every trend that you see. They're not following every last boycott. Yes, there are black people who do exist out there. You could pull a lot of black folks right now on the streets, real streets, and they will tell you, oh, what boycott? I didn't hear anything about that. You believe it or not, you got black folks out there who really weren't following the Carmelo Anthony stuff. Oh, then that means they're not black. No, it just means that their whole life isn't wrapped around what goes on social media. Yes, those black people do exist. And so they're just chilling, going to the store, being about their business and all of that, right? So that's one type of black person that we have out there, right? Then the other side, we got the ones that are always outraged at something, all right? Boycotts, just all over the place. And I thought ChatGPT actually did pretty good with this one. I didn't even tell it to put all this information. I gave it some things to put in, but I think it came out quite good. I'm live right now with 2,367 people. Y'all better explain why y'all still carry these problematic products. And the black guy who works there, he's like, I just wanted a quiet shift. This is recording everything, demands the manager, quotes the community, leaves everyone exhausted, and posts about it. That's the other type of black folks we got on. I'm just laughing. I'm like, man, I told you ChatGPT knows it all. I mean, I didn't have to put all that in there. They kind of know. But yeah, so those are the two types of black folks that we have out here today. So as we're talking in this very calm, very mature conversation, what we're not doing is lumping all black people into one basket. That is not what we're doing. What we are clearly doing here at the beginning of our conversation is making it clear that you have two types of black folks who are out there in the midst of all of this. You got many who don't know about a boycott, and if they do, they frankly don't care. Then you got the other ones that are just, they're really tied in because they spend a great deal of their time on social media and they get all of their social cues or mental cues from what they see on social media. And it's just really something. Before we continue, though, I do want to show you, and I'm just switching the topic just a tinge here because I wanted to go to this, where am I? Go back here. I did want to go back for a moment to the Carmelo Anthony thing. I just want to mention one thing about it because that narrative continues to fall apart. The guy, Dominique Alexander, well, he made an admission in another recent interview. And this is Dominic Alexander. This is the guy who the Anthony's hired to be their PR representative. The guy who was basically has a long rap sheet of all kinds of crimes he committed, not to mention that he shook a baby until the baby got brain damage. Yeah. So you're trying to improve the image of your son who stabbed someone and killed them, by hiring someone who's a felon and, among other things, injured a baby. Y'all, I saw this already. It was just a bad comedy that was, I mean, even at the beginning, I already knew how this was going to play out. And, it's a lot of slow people out there. But anyway, but this is him in this interview. I want you to, and then we'll get back to what we're talking about, but I wanted to make sure I didn't forget this. I want you to hear him make a really interesting admission.
People were saying that they were able to see him getting jumped. I couldn't see that. So I was wondering if you guys saw something different.
No. It's not. I didn't see that with that video. No. I didn't see him. I didn't see him getting jumped. Oh, you know what I mean? Like I saw movement over there. I saw that there was multiple people around him, but I didn't see. He was getting. You know what I mean? Like the altercation. No.
Wait a minute here. Hold on for a second. Wait a minute. So all of this noise that people have been making out here saying that when I tell you, I wish if I had the time, if I had put it together where I wish I had like a producer here that could say, pull up slide number 17. I wish I had all of that. I don't have that. We ain't there. Okay. But there were people out here literally making drawings showing two giant white guys. I mean, it was like two Goliath size. I am not making this up, of guys, white guys. And they put it next to this tiny black guy. That was supposed to be Carmelo. And then they had like the weight and the height size and all of that. And they said, this is what Carmelo faced and all of that. They totally ignored all the black folks that were in there, that was in there, also telling them they need to get up. He needs to get up out of there. They ignored all of that, and they just whittled it down to two giant white Goliaths that were going against this little David. He didn't have time to get 5 stones, but he found time to get a knife. Anyway, and so he used his little knife and he stabbed him in the chest. And so, because that's all he had, and so all the noise of people out here that was saying on repeat that they were jumping him, they were pushing him and all of that noise. Here's your PR guy who's acknowledging that didn't happen. He waits till after the fact to say that. Now, I know there are people out there saying, well, what, they released the video because they hide stuff. See, in America, they always hide stuff. There was one guy, I can't recall his name right now. What's the boy name? But, there's some things I do like what he does, but there's other things I like, dude, just shut up. You have your own legal problems, but I can't think of the dude's name right now. But anyway, he was out here talking about how America, is, this court system, they're hiding. No, they're not. Courts, you have judges out there that will, from time to time, based on their decisions, and usually it's because they're doing everything they can to make sure that there is a fair trial that takes place. They don't want the noise from the external to interfere what's going on the inside. So a lot of times what they'll do is they'll say, hey, no cameras, no press or whatever. If you are press, you better bring a notepad or whatever, and that's it. And then after the fact, they just release everything. And it doesn't happen instantaneously. Usually it takes a little bit of time, but they'll release it. Here in this case, you even got Mr. Metcalf, the father, who's also saying, yeah, release everything. I don't care, because I want the world to see it. So nobody's hiding anything. And so everyone that honestly has seen the video, and I ain't talking about your cousins and them that's out there, well, I saw a video and it showed, and they're saying that, yeah, I saw, it was just the whole clan. I saw the whole clan. They were on horses and they had burning crosses and they put the burning crosses down, and they lynched them, they killed them, and then they killed them again. None of that happened, y'all. But the thing that really is bothersome is that nobody, all of these ass clowns out here who've been saying all this stuff, now that it's all out, they're not going to correct themselves. They're not going to say, you know what, I screwed up. I didn't even know. I was commenting on stuff I didn't even know. I'll just wait, see the video myself. You know, but no, the people are making stuff up. And what I believe is that once the video does come out, what I know is going to happen is that people are going to doctor it. It's not going to be the government and all that. It's going to be that's going to doctor this video, and they're going to make it seem like, no, this is the real video. And of course, they're going to make it seem like there was two He-Mans out there that were the ones that were punching him and slinging him all over the stadium and all that kind of stuff. So you know that's going to happen. Okay, I'm just letting you know right now, all that is going to happen. So, and that's the unfortunate thing about making it public. You know, that's just the unfortunate thing about it, because, you know, in this era of AI, there's a lot of people out there. That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to edit this video, you know, and then they're going to say the government did it. This is the real video. I got my hands on the real video. Yeah, it's just, you know, whatever. So you know it's going to happen, and you're dealing with messy folks. And I told you, it is a retarded class of people. Am I saying all black people are retarded? No, because you got white people in this retarded class that I was talking about the other day as well that are putting out some crazy stuff. They're just not even thinking. They're just all over the place, you know. So anyway, speaking of videos, I want to show you this video of another guy that I just don't have a whole lot of respect for this guy. Killer Mike. Imagine being, I think the dude is about almost 50. Imagine being a 50-year-old or close to 50-year-old, and you still refer to yourself as Killer Mike. I mean, you would think at a certain point, you would be like, you know what? I'm going to not go by this name anymore. Or you got some of these rappers out here, you know, that were back in the day, you know, they were Lil so-and-so or Lil this or that or whatever. And they about as old as me, still going by those names. And it's like, okay, at a certain point, you say you would just say, you know what? It was dumb then, and quite honestly, it's dumb now. I'm going to change my name. Of course, they don't do that. Anyway, so here's Killer Mike on a recent podcast. I want you to hear him, and he's lamenting about this whole situation regarding, you know, the boycott and all that kind of stuff. So I want you to hear what he has to say on this. Let me bring this up here, and let's take a listen to the great Killer Mike. Okay, there's a lot that we said on that, but let me bring something else up here. And like I said, on this platform, you know, on our channel here, what we try to do here is we tried our best to look at the facts, right, to the best of our ability. And I'm trying to find, there's something specifically I'm looking up here. If not, there's another thing I need to look up. But we try to look at the facts. And the facts is that there was a real court case that took place. There was a real court case that took place where, hold on for a second, y'all. I'm a little distracted. Let's see. Because I'm looking for a video that I played the other day. If I can't find it, there's another way. There's another place I can pull this up here. Hold on. Oh, yeah, I found it. I found it. The facts are there was an actual real court case that took place. And in that court case, both sides had the opportunity to present the facts. All right. They had the opportunity to do it. And you know, everything was done as far as if you want to get to the bottom line, to the truth. So the facts were all brought to the table. Not this mythological BS that's always out in the streets where they're guessing things and all of this, adding facts and all this other nonsense. That didn't even happen, but real facts. That's what they're looking at. And that's how a civilized society is supposed to operate, is to function. But the Killer Mikes and all that in the world, always adding all of this other stuff just because they have a narrative in their minds that they want to continue to go and to flourish out there, instead of just pointing people to, hey, Killer Mike, did you actually talk to the attorney? Did you have a conversation with the attorney on these different things that you're alleging happened or took place? Well, no, I don't have to do that because, see, as a black man in America, no, then you're operating out of ignorance. Did you actually listen to what the attorneys brought to the table? Did you go through the stuff that they presented? Did you do any of that? Did you look at the transcripts? Did you look at any of that? I'm not asking you to love this man who shot and killed this young boy. Nobody's asked you to do that. I'm just simply saying, did you even bother to go in and listen to what was actually presented? Did you even bother to do that? Every time, I can tell you all this week, every time I've brought that up to people, they get mad. They get mad. They get angry. How dare you put a demand for me to ask questions and to investigate myself? How dare you do that? This is the world we live in. So while Killer Mike was talking, the thing that's very interesting to me is, like I said, again, this is a quite unfortunate situation. We don't like seeing any of our children, and people, period, getting gunned down or whatever, regardless of what the reasons are, and like I said, we're not going to get into that for the sake of this conversation. But there is a trend that Killer Mike and others have been ignoring. And they've been ignoring it for a long time, but it never comes up. It seems to like it never comes up. And I am simply asking why. Why does it not come up? What you're seeing on the screen is case after case of black individuals who have hunted down Asian people for various reasons and killed them over the years. This is what you're seeing on your screen right now. They have hunted down and have killed Asians, regardless if they're Chinese, Thai, Korean, Japanese, or whatever. There is a long history just in the last 10 years of Asian individuals. And as you can see, most of them are women. I would say just about all of them are women. But there was another case here I'm not showing right now, but I just passed through it because I bookmarked that one as well. But most of these are women. Asian women that have been hunted down by black individuals, killed. And then when you get into the stories, it's over dumb stuff. Or they just flipped out and just said, I'm just going to kill you and that's it. Now, let me ask you something. Why is it that those stories, Killer Mike and other people, why is there not a pause to say, you know what? We need to think about this. And not just think about this. There needs to be some type of standard where people like this, they need to be completely excommunicated out of the community, period. In other words, if they go to jail, they need to stay in jail, period. And we need to make sure as a community that their ass stays in jail. No parole, nothing. Because these individuals are the ones that are making it worse for all of us. No, you don't hear that. You know what happens? Nothing. But the Killer Mikes of the world can sit his fat behind on there and boo-hooing because the Asians don't like us. They don't like us anymore. What we need to be doing is joining together and going after the master race, which is the white people. But for some reason, they don't like us anymore. I just showed you several reasons. Gee, I wonder why. Well, this conversation is about to get even deeper. All right. So what I want to talk about as far as this business stuff is, see, some people can't take it. They can't take it. They can't take it once you bring that up. Someone asked, and I'm looking in the comments here, they said, what is the purpose of you taking this route? Because I'm taking the route of truth. That's what I'm doing. Now, if this is something that you don't want to hear, it makes you uncomfortable, then I would advise you to keep scrolling, maybe not watch. It's okay. I'm not mad at you. I don't know you. All right. So anyway, so let's continue. So let's get into the history, if you will, of, because we talk a lot of times about the Asian community. All right. We talk a lot of times about the Asian community. But as you know, like I just said, the Asian community is quite large. And when we say Asian, that can encompass people from India, that can encompass people from Thailand, that can encompass people from Japan, that can encompass a lot of people. Okay. But we're going to narrow it down, and we're just simply talking about the Chinese. All right. We're talking about the Chinese. Okay. We're going to start off with there, and then we're going to expand it because we need to understand the history of Chinese in this country. All right. When it comes to businesses. Okay. Did you know, first of all, that the Chinese, when we talk about Chinatown, a lot of times when we talk about Chinatown here in the United States, we think about the Chinese. We think about Chinatown, let's say, in places like New York or let's see, San Francisco. Those are typically the Chinatowns that come to mind, you know, when people think about it. But what I did recently is I did a search, and I wanted to find out how many Chinatowns there are, because clearly I knew that there was a lot more Chinatowns than that. I mean, I've lived in places like Colorado, in the Denver area, you know, out here in Arizona, whatever. And I know that they're not Chinatowns, but they're Asian towns, right? And there are at least 50 of them, at least 50 different Chinatowns all across America that have been around for at least 50 years. Now, when I say Chinatown, I want you to understand, we're not just talking Chinatown as in they're just all Chinese, because over time, what's happened is that they have evolved into Asian towns or Asian communities, right? So it does encompass other parts of the Asian spectrum, if you will, right? And so one thing I will start off with this is that the businesses of a community are only as strong as the families in that community. Let me say that again. The businesses of the community are only as strong as the families in the community. And I think I need to say that. I'll say that one more time. The businesses of a community are only as strong as the families in the community. And I have to say, and I want to repeat that 3 times, because that right there, I think, is the center right there. When you understand that, you can understand this whole situation here. Okay. So anyway, getting back to Chinatown. Now, the Chinese, of course, they didn't go through slavery like black folks did. We understand that. We totally get that. So I'm not making comparisons there. However, the Chinese did encounter a lot of racism on their own. You know, they were pushed back economically and all of that, right? So there were a lot of things they encountered in this country. Again, let me repeat for the slow people in the room. I am not making a comparison and saying the Chinese and black folks are one and the same, that they went through the same exact stuff. You know, because the Chinese in this country did not experience slavery. We are the ones that experienced that. However, there are certain things that they did experience, and one of it was economic discrimination. So what the Chinese ended up doing is, as they were being pushed out economically into their own communities and towns and stuff like that, they relied on their own family structures primarily. There was other things too, and like I said, we're just starting off in the early days. They rely primarily on their family structures. A lot of times in these Chinatowns, if you will, we're just saying that for air quotes right now. What last name you had, it carried a lot of weight, because a lot of people, obviously, if you're in Chinatown, you hanging out in these Chinatowns, especially during that time, you remember Mr. Chow or Mr. Lin or whatever from back in China somewhere. And so you know what kind of weight they carried back in China. So you was able, that a lot of times carried over into the Chinatowns here in the United States. And so a lot of times people would, in the earlier days in Chinatowns, they tend to kind of group themselves by surnames. That's what they tended to do. All right. And so you'll see a little bit later on that evolved into, it wasn't just that, it was like what region of China or what region or whatever Asian country you were, they grouped according to that. But the central part of this culture, all right, we're just talking very general here, is that family was central. It was essential. If you're going to build a business, it wasn't just one person doing it and then that's it, and everybody come support or whatever. It wasn't that. Everyone played a part in it. You know, the father and the men in the country, in the family, they're the ones that a lot of times did the heavy lifting, the physical stuff, you know, getting the resources, the products and stuff to sell and all that kind of stuff. The mothers, a lot of time, or the women, they were the ones that primarily, this is in Chinese, you can read all about this. They were the ones that actually did the financials. They were the bookkeepers, right? And so that's typically how that happened. And so the way it would work is this: somebody came over fresh from China and or some Asian country, but we're going to stick with China right now. And their first landing place was these Chinatowns. And there they can find room, shelter, they can find a place to work, they can find all of that. All right. And but they also, these Chinese people, they also, one of the hurdles that they dealt with was immigration policies over the years that changed over and over again. So they had their own challenges that they dealt with. Okay. And so anyway, hold on, let me see. So anyway, what ended up happening was, let's see, where am I going here? Okay, so what ended up happening over time, you know, that continued to grow and grow and grow, and they began to expand in their own town. So they had a economic power base. They had an economic power base that they had there where they can build and they can always retreat to when stuff got real hot out there. All right. Now, when it comes to black community, did we have that? Well, what were some of the challenges that black communities had? Well, our challenges were a bit different. All right. And in some cases, they were a lot more severe, because unlike the Chinatowns, if you will, black communities, a lot of times they were built, but they were also burnt down too. So, you know, they were torn down or outlawed and stuff. So you had that was all under the umbrella of Jim Crow. So that is a very true thing. Again, that's part of history, right? So we had that. But the towns and the communities that we were able to build, you did have some of this. When I say similar, it was similar in the sense of these were places of refuge, right? Wasn't so much about last names or anything like that. It was just a general, this is a place of survival. You know what I mean? If you want to come, you know, find yourself some shelter, you want to get some food, you want this, that, or whatever, go to church or whatever, find a job. You know, the black community at that time was a place that you can go. When I say black community, let's just say the black section of town, right? It was a place for that. So again, there are some variables there. Like I said, again, we dealt with some things a little more severe than, let's say, the Chinese did, but the similarities are there, right? That's what happened. And so fast forward a little bit, well, I would say quite a bit. Laws changed, things begin to warm up a little bit as far as the United States and how they perceive black folks and Chinese people or Asian people by this time, because now you got other Asians that were coming into the country. Then we get to the point where financing, where you have countries, or rather the United States now, issuing out special loans or having special business programs for people of color. So that was Asians, black folks, whomever, right? There's special financing for all of these different groups, right? And so Asians, these Chinatowns, believe it or not, they have received quite a bit of federal and state financing, right? So we're not going to, we're not going to sit up here and act like all their money comes from China, all their money, that's not true, or all their money comes from Korea or Japan. None of that's true. That's not true. Part of it does, but they do get loans and stuff like that, special privileges and things like that from here, the United States. That's absolutely true. But what is also true is the same thing happens with black folks. Black folks, it's the same thing. There have been many projects like the new Black Wall Street and stuff like that. There have been many examples of that. Black economic power zones, empowerment zones. I've seen that. That was really big in the 90s and the early 2000s, where you had these empowerment zones and stuff like that. And then you go back to these same empowerment zones, you'll see a lot of them aren't there anymore. All right. And so both have definitely received funding, if you will, from the United States. But what I submit to you is that the difference between the two groups today is this. That one has a solid structure when it comes to family, whereas the other one do not. All right. And I'm talking specific. Hear what I'm saying. Don't jump into your emotions. Don't jump ahead of me. I am not saying all black people. I am talking about the specific groups that you will find these stores, if you will, these Asian-owned stores. And we're saying Asian, but you can also throw in the Arabs and stuff as well. These specific communities where there tends to be a lower income class of black folks. In those communities, you're going to see a higher rate of families that are broken. That's a fact. That's a known fact, okay? So we're talking about those individuals. We're not saying all black people fall into this category, right? So in those communities, when you compare those people in those communities with the business owners in those communities, the business owners in those communities tend to have a more solid family or, a support structure, right? So let me give you an example. When you go into the nail salons, right? In the nail salons, you think it's just one person. When you look into these nail salons, you'll see like 20, 30 different tables in there, right? And what happens is, sometimes they're related, sometimes they're friends, sometimes they just know somebody or whatever. They are not just pulling of course, each person gets a cut of the work that they do, but they also, what they do is they share the expenses. A lot of times these workers take a cut in pay. In other words, they're not coming in there, demanding $17 an hour, $18 an hour. Now, what I'm saying too is I'm not sitting up here saying that everything they do is up and legal. I am not saying that either. I'm just telling you how they operate, okay? And so they come in with the mindset that, okay, listen, we're not going to get as paid as much as if we were working for Miss Susie or Mr. Charlie, but we're going to agree that whatever comes into this shop, we're going to make sure we're going to pool our monies together to make sure that, hey, we're all going to float. You understand what I'm saying? That's how they operate. And by doing that, they're able to turn around a lot quicker. They're able to get customers in and able to get customers out because you got a larger base of individuals that are coming together, right? And that's why their prices is always cheaper, right? So that's how they operate. Now, let's flip the switch here and let's look at how numbers of black operations, nail shops operate. We're just talking nail shops here, All right. With the nail shops, the way they work, Eddie, you sure got a lot to say here. Now, if you want to go on live, if you want to come on live with me and let's chop it up, I'll be more than happy to do that after I'm finished. Be more than happy. So if you want to stick around to the end and you got stuff to say or whatever, I'll be more than happy to have you on. Okay. So I'll just, let me finish. Let me get through this and I'll be more than happy to have you on. Okay. But anyway, so when you look at the black side, in many cases, and it's not all cases, but in many cases, what you'll have is and I've seen this before, you have these independent, what they call it, like co-op spaces. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. Co-op spaces. This doesn't happen all the time, but it happens a whole lot. Co-op spaces where, and I've been in them, and I'm sure many of you have as well, where it's these co-op spaces are basically like, okay, they're booths, basically. They're spaces. Like you'll have a person, like for example, I went into a co-op space. I didn't know what one was. I went in there and it was literally like you have this one booth here and it's someone that does nails. In fact, I will go down this one hallway and there's individuals, each individual, they have their own nail spot and it's only operated by one person. So each individual is an independent nail artist or whatever you call it, stylist, right? And so all of these people work individually. They're their own business, right? And then I went further around the corner and then I saw, okay, you got barber A, barber B, barber C. They weren't all working together. They just have a shared space. The only point where they're sharing resources is the monthly rent that they pay, for that space to keep the space lit, air conditioning running, the power on, that kind of thing, that the rent is paid. But to say that the black community in general is benefiting from it economically, they're not. They don't have the same structure. You understand what I'm saying? So when you look at, in that regards, there's more of an independent view that you'll find a lot of times within the black space versus when you look at some of these Asian families where they tend to think more in a community sense. You understand what I'm saying? Now, am I saying that it's perfect? No, of course not. Do they do things illegally? Yes, they do. Now I'm talking Asians, right? But not all the time. But what I want you to focus on is what the key is, going back to what I said. The business of a community are only as strong as the families in that community. All right. And so that's what I'm talking about here. And so let's see, origin, China history, origin, symbol, how people operate. Okay, explain that. They relied on each other. We talked about that. Okay, so here's another point that we need to focus on. All right, and I will do that. After this here, it'll only take me like a few minutes. I will be more than happy to have any of you guys to call in and to have your say. This is not a debate where I'm going to overtalk you and yell at you and all that. As long as you're respectful, you can call in. I don't have any problems with that because I like actually talking to people. I don't like when people have a lot to say, but then once they're given the opportunity to speak, then they go quiet. I don't necessarily like that, but I'll give you an opportunity, plenty of opportunity. And so anyway, so the mic will be open for you if you choose to be here. All right. Anyway, so let's go. So let's look at something that is also overlooked. And that is the issue of security. You remember I think it was last week I talked about this. It was last week I talked about how the new Black Wall Street that was set up, the new Black Wall Street that was set up down in Georgia, in Atlanta area. And now they just closed shop. And one of the reasons why they said they closed shop is because of the lack of support, among other things, but it was a lack of support from the community. That's what they said. I didn't say that. That's what they said. Now you're in Atlanta and you're saying that you couldn't get support for this. But that's what happened. But it's not just them. I have been tracking a lot of projects like this for years because, again, I told you I'm an entrepreneur. I love black folks. This is what I do. I love doing this. I'm always rooting anytime these stories come out where they're doing a brand new project. We are always pumping them up and saying, hey, y'all, go check them out. This looks like an exciting thing and all of that stuff. We're always doing that. And so we give people the opportunity, so we tell people that, but unfortunately it keeps playing out over and over again. Right. But one of the issues that always comes up when I'm talking to other black entrepreneurs, specifically when we're talking to black entrepreneurs that have brick and mortar shops, online is different, but brick and mortar shops for sure, is security. Security is something that comes up a lot when it comes to businesses, period, in these specific communities. Again, am I be clear? I'm talking when you're dealing in many cases, in lower income areas. Let me be clear even more for those that just emotionally just fly off. Am I saying everybody that's black and low income are criminals and thieves? No, I'm not saying that either. But what I am saying is the type of crime that I'm talking about, when we're talking about theft, particularly in stores, it is very prevalent in those communities, right? And in those communities, it's not just black people. You have Hispanics and you even have white. In fact, last week I talked about one particular white community that I was in. I went to the Walmart and they had just about everything on the detergent aisle behind glass. If you wanted detergent, you got to press the button and someone has to come get it. And this wasn't even a black community. You understand what I'm saying? So there is an economic tie to that, all right, along with some other stuff. But it happens, right? But not all people who are poor are thieves. That's the furthest thing I'm trying to communicate or say or suggest. But we can't ignore the facts, okay? We can't ignore that at all. So here's the thing. So we have been reading a lot of cases where Walmart, Target, Starbucks, and there are numbers of other stores that have moved out of these communities. A lot of times they go into these communities and say, hey, we want to come into the community. And a lot of times these big stores go into these communities because they, it's part of it is a PR thing, because they're saying we want to reach out to the black folks, or we want to reach out to the less fortunate or whatever, and give them an opportunity to have something, right? Have something nice that they can shop in and all of that, right? So a lot of times these box stores or these corporately owned stores, like I said, a Starbucks, some of these other stores, they go into these communities as almost like a favor, right? But what happens? What unfortunately begins to happen? Security becomes a big issue. A lot of things ends up getting stolen. Customers that are coming in that are just simply trying to buy something, get a product or two and leave. Now, all of a sudden, they feel scared to go into these stores because of the vagrants that are outside of the store, or people coming into these stores and causing a lot of trouble. So what does that mean? That means that a lot of these stores have to invest more money into security, right? So when you're running a business, everything, when your budget is tight, all right, meaning everything is locked in. You got to pay your utilities, your products, your employees, health insurance, whatever it is, all your insurance or all your monies are tied into specific things. Security is part of that budget. But if any one of those things I just mentioned goes up too high, it's going to have a direct impact on everything else. You understand what I'm saying? So if my security bill is going up higher, and higher, what's the issue? Now what's going to happen? Well, that's going to have an impact on the employees. That's going to have an impact on everything else, right? So what's been happening, unfortunately, is that a lot of these companies have been pulling out of these communities because of security. When we look at, for example, let me go up here to, now we look at these Asian stores, for example, these Asian and when I say Asian now I'm talking Asian and Arab, all right? when I look at this, for example, this is a very common scene. I just did a quick search here, but a lot of times, in many ways, you have everything's behind bulletproof glass. There's some stores I've been into, you can't even go in the store. Everything's locked down. You literally you have one person in the store, and you go right to the door, and they will go in and they will go into the store to the aisle to get whatever it is they need to get. And then they bring it to you. There are more and more stores that are doing this kind of stuff, particularly in these communities. Now, I remember years ago when Target and Walmart, when they started putting like black beauty supply products behind glass and under lock and key, a lot of black folks were getting angry at that and saying, this is racist. How dare you do this? But this is coming from individuals who were saying this, who really don't understand business. Because the truth of the matter is, as a business owner, you want people to come in and to buy stuff. That's the whole point. You don't want, as a marketer, you don't want any barriers to get people to think twice before buying anything. You don't want that. You want them to jump in, buy it, and come on and let's go. That's what you want. But when you have to do that, it's causing customers to think twice and be like, you know what? I'll just go to Amazon. If I got to sit up here and wait for somebody, I'm going to go into Amazon. So what's going to happen? These customers now the business, they're losing money just off of that, because everything happens within seconds. Everything happens within seconds. When I go into these stores a lot, and a lot of times I get frustrated, regardless of what store I go into. And I'm like, why is it? It just seems like people have lost their freaking mind. It's like they just go blank when they're in the store. You know how you go into the grocery store, whatever store it is, and people are just like looking around and all that. Meanwhile, I already know what I want, right? But what it is this: the human brain isn't designed to be trying to make decisions about 1,000,001 things at 1 second. When you go into the grocery store, if you've ever noticed why you're kind of like in a daze on something, it's because your brain, which is designed to focus on one thing at a time, is doing just that. Now you're immersing yourself into an environment where now you got to focus on 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 things. This is why manufacturers oftentimes will change the labeling, because they're like constantly trying to get your attention, right? So they're constantly changing the labeling. What's another thing that manufacturers do? When you go into grocery stores, sometimes you get so mad, you're like, listen, every time I go into this grocery store, the such and such is always on this aisle right here. Why did y'all move it on the other side? Again, this is all part of marketing. They do this because they're trying to vie for your attention, because they know they're dealing with individuals. This is human beings that our brains are designed only to focus on one thing at a time. So I'm saying all that to say, this is why when you, so anything that is going to cause even a microsecond of delay, they're losing money. You understand what I'm saying? So when these stores have to install all of this security and all this other stuff, what that means is they're losing money. Okay. So this is what you see, particularly in these types of stores, in these communities. But what is the big golden question here? All right. What's the big question here? The question is, who are they bringing all this security for? Nobody wants to ask that question. In many of these communities, it's black folks. When you see these stores have all of this stuff down, the gates and the prison bars and all that stuff, who do you think they're trying to protect their products from? You think they're trying to protect their stuff from what? The Swedish, the Dutch, space aliens? No. This is what they deal with every day. So a lot of stores, big stores, the corporate stores, they're like, man, it's too much. We're bouncing. We're out of here. You see this literally all over the country. But it's the Koreans, it's the Chinese, it's the other Asian groups who are the ones that are saying, listen, we know all that to be true, but we still gonna sit here. Not necessarily because we love these niggas. It's not because of that, but this is the only place for this part of our pocket we can get some money. But we know we're gonna have to pull our resources together and make sure that, we're gonna just have to do what we have to do. So I'm not saying that these individuals come into these communities because they love black people. They just are thinking like business. They see it as an opportunity because they know everybody else is running away from it because of the crime. You understand what I'm saying? That's what happens. And so, but the complaint that we're hearing is coming from the same people that are saying, oh, there's food deserts. There's food deserts and we don't have anything. We don't have anything to eat because everybody's left us. Well, gee, I wonder why. Let me show you. There's a few videos that I do want to show you. This is stuff that these individuals chose to film themselves and then post it on social media. Remember, I did not put this together. This wasn't the Klan. These individuals chose to do this. So let me play this. This is all on TikTok. Let me show you some of these videos here. Take a look at some of these videos that these individuals chose to upload themselves. Okay, that's one. Here's another one.
I'm gonna show y'all how to walk out on a $600 bill. So, y'all, the exit right here, right? It's a table full of everybody. Don't care. Bill came out to $600. My meal was only $20, so I'm putting up $20, so I'm finna leave. So, I'm gonna keep y'all updated though.
There's another one.
This is the Burger Theory connected to the Holiday Inn downtown, February 21st. Notice the group in the corner, 3 adults and 2 kids. They spent about 45 minutes here racking up an $80 bill. It appears they get good service. The waitress checks on the table, they're eating the food. Waitress even brings to-go boxes, but they decide to go without ever paying. You can see them here in just a second hurry out the door. The server says she was able to track them down, but the man in the red sweatshirt pushed her, then took off.
There's another one.
Surveillance video from inside the restaurant shows a table of 16 people eating and enjoying themselves. Frida's manager, Jesse Gonzalez, says they were one of the last tables seated around 10:30 Sunday night, a half hour before close.
And they came at the last minute, and we didn't think anything of it.
He says they treated themselves, ordering some of the most expensive things on the menu, including $11 margaritas.
Burritos, the hefty grounded burritos, the Frida special steaks, steak and shrimp.
But soon he says the bartender got a whiff of something that didn't smell like grilled steak and peppers.
It was just one guy that was just smoking weed, and we asked him to stop, and I guess he was like the leader of the group, and they just went out and listened to him and made a scene.
There's no sound in the surveillance video, but at this point, Gonzalez says the group started berating the staff.
They started getting louder and louder, getting upset, started yelling.
Eventually, one by one, people finish their drinks and leave the table, except for these 2 women left behind. They didn't seem to be in as much of a hurry. She even carries her blue margarita away from the table and continues to drink it after the group ignores staff and skips out on their $420 bill.
Now, again, let me bring up this image here. You have 2 groups that we're talking about. You have black individuals out here who don't play in that space. You have black individuals out here who are respectful. They don't do that kind of stuff, right? They may know about some social media stuff, some boycotts and stuff like that, but they're not really, that's not their life. Their life isn't centered around social media. Notice those other videos that I played, the first few ones that I played. What does she do? I'm going to film this and I'm going to post this on social media. So this is the group right here to the right. This segment within what we call the black community who are doing these kind of things that we're seeing out here. This is who we're addressing. Okay. And so this unfortunately happens a whole lot. And if you followed us on this platform, we've even have videos. I don't know if I bookmarked it or not, but I even have a video of a few black businesses. This is a string of black owned business restaurants in Chicago where they were experiencing the same thing, dine and dash, where black individuals were going in there, ordering up a bunch of food and leaving. All right. So that's a thing. It's a real thing. So think about it. As an entrepreneur, if you're a black entrepreneur and you see this, do you think, and again, we're talking specifically about brick and mortar. That's what I'm focused on. I'm not online is different because you don't have to deal with this as much. I will say there are some things you do deal with online, but I'm not going to get into that. Let's just talk brick and mortar. All right. Brick and mortar. Well, maybe I will touch on that a little bit. Brick and mortar, for example, is I'm trying to figure out if I will get into the online stuff. But brick and mortar, a lot of times, I typically, when I'm talking to some individuals, I strongly advise not to do that. Not in this day and age, and particularly in some communities, I would say not to do it because you're going to have to invest a ton in security, and it's just not worth it. I'm not saying don't focus on particular on folks. I'm just saying you're just going to have to think a little bit wiser during this time. You know what I mean? And that's just what it is. But yeah, so if you're seeing this as an entrepreneur, does that look encouraging to you? No, it doesn't. Anybody, regardless if you're black, white, whatever, it doesn't matter. It is not something that your typical fair-minded, clear-minded entrepreneur would be rushing to fill that void. But we have to say, based on what we're seeing, what we've been seeing for years and years and years, is that Asians have been filling that void. Rather, if they love us or not, that's irrelevant. They have been the ones filling the void. And this is why I say a lot of these people that you see, if you go online, there's a lot of people out here going in. There's a whole series of videos where they're going into these Asian establishments and they're looking at and they're showing their camera and they're talking about, see, y'all, ain't nobody up in here. Ain't nobody up in here. Ain't nobody up in here. And they say, see, it's working. It's working. If it's a food desert, so let's just think clearly for a second. If you're in a community that you have called a food desert, let me ask you something. Then where else are you going to go to get food? It seems to me that if people are rejecting that, because again, you got to understand the mindset of individuals who live in these communities. A lot of these people, they work, they may be, below the poverty line, or maybe right at the poverty line. They work, right? They actually people do work, you know what I mean? But they don't have time to make a full dinner. So that's why a lot of people tend to eat out in these places, right? And so if you're saying that all of these black people are boycotting and they're not going to these places, then my question to you is, where do you think they're getting their food from then? See, a lot of these people are lying to you on social media, and that's not happening, because what they're not showing you is once they turn the camera off. Because I'm quite certain a lot of people, some same people, as soon as they turn the camera off, they're saying, okay, I'll take a number 2, I'll take a number 4, I'll take a number 8, and all of that stuff. And there ain't no line to shoot. You understand what I'm saying? So don't believe everything you see on social media. And then the final point, and not really the final point, because we're going to switch over to the successful business model, black model, that I can point to and say, this is how it works. This wave that we're seeing right now, that they're boycotting Asian markets and all that. Remember, I did this I did a short here on YouTube. And what I said is this, and I hope people really got it, is that if you think for one moment that these individuals are now all of a sudden promoting black-owned businesses because they love these individuals, let me be the first to tell you that it's not true at all. They don't. And I would say the most of them do not. And I would say that loud. If it was the tallest mountain in Arizona, I would stand on it and tell you with the loudest speaker and microphone I get my hands on, and I would tell you they do not. They have no love in their hearts for black entrepreneurs. The reason why I say that is this, is because if they did, this wouldn't be a discussion, would it? They would have already had something in place in their heart, in their minds, where they were already going to these operations, to these black-owned businesses. They were already going there. But the truth is that was never the case. Think of it this way. It's almost like many of these people are only going to these promoting and going to these businesses now. It's almost like if you were dating someone for a very long time and they did something that pissed you off. And so what you're going to do is I'm going to get back at them by dating this other dude on the other side of town and show them just how much I mean it and all this other stuff and what he's missing. That's exactly what we're seeing right now. As someone that's been around for years, and I'm sure many of you have, I've seen these types of boycotts come and go, and they always end up going back to their former lovers. See, a lot of people don't want to be honest in their assessment when they're talking about this. They're acting as if this is something brand new. When I am telling you, based on history, based on what I've seen, based on what we know, it's not something that's sustainable. Because if you, going back to what I said earlier, the businesses of a community are only as strong as the families in that community. There is no way you can have a sustainable business that is centered on a particular community that does not have strong families. There's no way that can be sustainable. The difference between Black Wall Street, the real one, the original one, and the ones that they try to build today is that back then the family structure was a lot stronger. Today it's not. And it's sad that anytime we try to talk about or address any aspect of the family structure, people get mad, they get angry, they don't want to hear it. Why are you beating up on black people? When we see all of these quote unquote teen takeovers, for example, that's not encouraging for businesses to go into those communities. It's not. But when it's brought up, what is the typical reaction? The typical reaction is, why are you always talking about black people? When you talk about white people, they used to do it. No, very few people actually want to have that conversation. They don't. That's what happens. Now, let me move on. And let's see, independent billing. I'll talk about that. Okay. All right. So real quick, we're going to let me just mention a good example of this. Let me just start off with this. And that is for black entrepreneurs. If you are going to have a successful business, don't just market yourself as a black owned business, because that really doesn't work. It doesn't. Because what you're doing is that you are limiting your growth opportunity, your growth potential. When you section yourself off to just black people, you are limiting your growth potential. A lot of black people like to talk about Black Wall Street, but what they don't realize, when you do the homework, yes, you had a lot of black people who own businesses in that part of Oklahoma, in the Tulsa, Greenwood section of Tulsa. You did. But guess who were going into those stores? It wasn't just black people. It were white people too. There were white people going into those stores. All right? And that is where it caused people to get scared and angry and all that kind of stuff. But as an entrepreneur that happens to be black, if that is your only shtick or whatever it is, then you are limiting your growth potential. I am not saying don't market towards black people. I am simply saying don't be exclusive to that. If you want to be, then that's your choice. Do you understand what I'm saying? And just know, okay, we're limiting ourselves intentionally for whatever reason. This is just a passion project or whatever. That's fine. That's okay. But let me add this to you. Let me add this as well. A business does not survive on tithe and offering money. Okay? A business does not survive on tithe and offering money. What do I mean by that? In other words, it's good as a business owner to hear people saying they purchased something from you. You know, this is just my way of support. That's okay. I really appreciate that. But when you go to Walmart, let me ask you something as someone who is an entrepreneur. When you go to a Walmart, for example, do you go to Walmart as a way to support the Walton family? Or do you buy something from Walmart because it's something that you actually need? That's a huge difference. It's a huge difference, y'all. Because one, you're treating as, let me just drop a few coins in here to support my brother and to support my sister. They're doing some good work. Look, the money can't even stay in there. Let me just give them some coins, man, you know, just as a way of support. You know, I'm just supporting them and all that. Man, I appreciate that. Thank you so much and all of that. One, you're treating like that. Okay? But the other, you buy from them because you actually need their stuff. See, there's a great reorganization mentally that has to take place in our minds. First of all, it comes from both sides. One, as black entrepreneurs, we have to make things that we actually need and we can use and need to use on a daily basis, regardless of what it is. What we're doing is the herb thing, natural supplements and all that stuff. Those are things that people need and you can use every day, right? That's one. Okay. But there's other people that make things that people need and use every day. So if you're thinking about getting into entrepreneurship, that's how you have to think. Something that people need and use every day, regardless of what it is, product, service, whatever. But you should never purchase from a black-owned business simply because you're trying to support them. That shouldn't be your only driver. Your driver should also be because I actually need that product. I actually need that service. And that makes a world of difference in the mindset of your customers. Because what's happening is you got this huge wave of people that's saying, yeah, we're going to go over here and we're going to support black-owned businesses. Well, like everything on social media, it fades. It's a trend. Because after they do it a couple of times, people tend to fall back into their old habits. It always happens. And black-owned businesses have experienced this for decades. It always happens. People get excited for whatever reason. They want to jump in. And then sooner or later, Mr. Chow has a sale. Now all of a sudden, everybody goes back over to Mr. Chang or Mr. Chow, Mr. Lee, whatever. It happens, right? And so there's a plethora of things that both sides, we could talk about the expectations of customers, the expectations of business owners. We've touched on that for years. I don't want to get into all of that right now, but I'm just giving you the basics here. Businesses, regardless if it's a black-owned business, white-owned business, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't just support them. You shouldn't just see it as this is my way of supporting them. You shouldn't just look at it that way. It should also be looked at, they have a product or service that I actually need. All right. So that's something that's very important. And then number two, if you want to just focus exclusively on black folks, that's fine. But just know that if you do that, you are limiting your growth potential. All right. You could still serve black folks and everybody else too. Your ultimate goal as an entrepreneur should be to give the best service anywhere imaginable. It's the best service. The products can't, what I've learned over the years is that the products don't even have to be, top tier or whatever. I've seen examples of this, but if your customer service is top tier, people will always come back to you. If you show a genuine concern for your customers and all of that, they will always come back to you. That's the power of customer service. And so But the one area that unfortunately that I see that we're grossly lacking in is customer service. Black people get on social media all the time and complain about it. We know it. But again, we don't talk about it. So we want to talk about, there was this quote in Lord of the Rings, I think Return of the King. He said, you ride to war, but not to victory. You want to ride to war with boycott after boycott after boycott, but you don't have an actual strategy. You don't. Many of these people, just I'll say all of them, they don't. It's a trend. It's a TikTok trend. That's all it is. But there are meaningful things that we can learn from all of these different groups as to why they have such a sustainability, why they've been able to survive all of the dips and dives and boycotts and all that, and they're still around. And what I am telling you is that the centerpiece has been family. The family has always been the center structure that has kept even the businesses together. And if we don't learn that part, there aren't going to be too many black businesses around. And just looking at the population, the birth rates, and we've talked about that as well, they're going down, y'all, and they've been going down. A lot of people put a lot of focus on white birth rates going down, but black American birth rates have been going down just along with them. So, if you better clean it up quick because things are changing quite quickly here. So let me share with you. I mentioned this the other day about the Good Family, GOODE, and the Good Family. They many of you are familiar with their products. They have canned vegetable products, and this is a black family, and they've been in business for years. And this is a good example because they market it to everybody, but this is their family story. And I wanted to share it with you. I thought it was very beautiful. And I hope I don't get any copyright on the music, but I just want to play it because it all goes, I think it flows well. Nobody's talking in this. Just read what's on the screen, okay? I'll just go ahead and play it for you. Beautiful story indeed, isn't it? A beautiful, beautiful story. That's how you do it. And they're just one black family. There are other black American families out there that are getting it right. They know how to, they know the key is the family. It's got to be family. You got to have that family structure in place if you want your business to be sustainable. And then you also, who your target audience is, are people who you know that are, you want to establish a long lasting relationship. You don't want people coming to you only because they got pissed off at Asians, because that kind of relationship does not last. It's learning how to see a value in yourself. And then we can have a long conversation. The reason about black on black crime, we could talk about that all day. But the root of that is you're dealing with a demographic of where there are numbers of people who do not like themselves. And if they don't like themselves, what makes you think they're going to love your business? What makes you think that? That's the delusion. That's the delusion. So you gotta, I just want people to use their brains when they're doing this. You could do whatever the heck you want. You're grown. You could do whatever the heck you want. Don't care. But what I am saying, as someone that's a bit older and have seen a lot of this stuff play out over and over again, I am telling you, you need to step off of the merry-go-round, because this stuff happens all the time and it always comes back to the same conclusion. Y'all done had at least 3 different boycotts. And now all of a sudden, but we have nothing to show for it. All those boycotts, nothing to show for it. The vacuum is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. All right. Well, anyway, this is the time of the broadcast. If you give me just a couple of minutes, I will be more than happy to see what browser this is. Give me just a moment here. That would be, I will be more than happy to open up my phone line. I can only take one person at a time though, because I don't have like a bank where, because some people have had a lot to say in the chat, and that's fine. Nobody's going to argue you down, talk down on you. I am a very respectful person to people until you cannot show the same respect as a human being. If you cannot show the same respect as a human being in a mature adult conversation, then you got to go. But other than that, I would love the opportunity for some of you, if you would like, to call in. Let me see here. Google Voice. I think that's what it is. And you could call in if you like, and to add your voice to this conversation. Okay. Now, when I do respond to you, you need to stay on. Okay. Don't go dipping. All right. Because if you can put it out, you can also take it too. All right. So we're going to be mature adults here, and we can take it. So give me just a moment here. I'll almost have it set up. I just have to check and see one thing here. Oh Lord, where is it? No, not that. Hold on, give me just a moment here. Messages, archive, spam. Let's see, voice. Calls, voicemail, archive, spam. Where's the settings? Oh, there you go. Voice number. Okay, I got it. Reach up for this cord here. Yep, I got it. Okay, let's see. Almost there, y'all. This is actually a lot quicker. This happened a lot quicker than I thought. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm going to turn it on. The phone number I am going to put in the chat. And let's go ahead and I'll put it in the chat here right now. Oh boy, that's not it. It didn't copy over right. Hold on. Okay, here it is. Here's the phone number right here. There we go. Phone number is in the chat right now. All right, it's in the chat right now. So if you would like to call in and whatever it is, you agree, you disagree, I personally don't care, either way, but I would love to hear from another human being on this topic. And, and you don't have to be just in the chat. So if you would like to comment and chime in on this very important topic, you are more than welcome to give me a call. The phone number is right there in the chat. And like I said, if you were very chatty, let's say in the chat this evening, this is not the time for you to go quiet now. Okay. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to call in and just have your say. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, I'll put some soft music on or some kind of music. Let's see. Which one is that? Let's see which one. Trying to put some. Okay, I'll put that on. Trying to soft music. So it's in the chat right now. You want to call in?
Surveillance video from inside the restaurant shows a table of 16 people eating.
The heck? What the heck happened? What the heck just happened? I don't know if I'm live or not. It's saying that I'm not. What the heck just happened? In the world? That's not, okay. Hold on for a second. Hold on. Manage. Okay, I can't see the comments for some reason. It's saying I'm still live. Oh, there you go. There you go. Okay, yeah, people saying I'm still live. Okay. Yeah, it just, I don't know what happened. It just was like telling me I wasn't live. Okay, good. Okay, all right. I got scared for a second. I was like, what happened? Okay. All right, good. I was like, what the heck just happened? Because it literally was like, you're offline now. And I was like, what? But I'm here. Okay, I'm still here. So again, phone numbers in the chat. Phone numbers in the chat. For those of you who follow me, for those of you who have followed this platform for quite some time, you know this usually how this plays out. Every time I open my phone line, people get quiet. You don't even have to. If you don't want to call in, that's fine. But this is your opportunity to have your say. Nobody's going to bite your head off. And I don't hate you over an opinion. I don't care about that. That's not Again, we're dealing with real life here. We're not dealing with artificial life. We're dealing with real life. So whatever it is that you experience on social media where people just go off on each other, that's not what's going to happen here. We're going to have an adult conversation, and you're going to have every opportunity to say whatever it is, whether if you agree, you disagree, whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is a very important topic. And if you do have something to contribute to it, and here you go. You have the opportunity to contribute. If you don't want to contribute, that's fine too. I'm not going to hold that against anybody. But I want to make it the opportunity available for individuals to chime in on it. And, like I said, it's it's just really something here. So I'll stick around for a few more minutes. And then after that, it is what it is, y'all. It is what it is. The phone number here is 480-382-9781. 480-382-9781. So we have to, again, this is, and I had the chance to kind of, because it, like, my screen just went blank, went during that little quick thing there. And I saw people, individual was, again, not agreeing and all of that. And let me see, what was that? I saw, let me just read some of it. Again, are we supposed to continue tolerating, accepting, and giving them our money? You're supposed to, if you are dealing with bad customer service, you're supposed to be an adult, a mature adult, and you're supposed to go and to communicate that to them. And if they refuse to give you the service that you believe you're deserving of, right, that is within the confines of real, in other words, your expectations ain't all the way to Pluto, but you have real expectations as a customer that are sensible, then you should communicate that to them in a very mature way. And if they refuse to give you that service, then you have plenty other places that you can go to get that service. It's simple as that. I don't know why that's so difficult for people to understand that. Like, you're not locked into just going to Asian places. There are many other places that provide the same level of services. Let's see. Pamela, she said, there are also non-food items in Walmart and Kroger. I wonder if that's the same family. Beautiful. Yeah, it is. Yeah, they have plenty of stuff. And it's not just the Good Family is just one example. There are other black-owned products in Target that are still there. A lot of black people don't realize that. But Target has always been providing platforms for black entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs. They've been doing that. They haven't stopped doing that. All right, let me kind of look here. Someone asked the same thing. They said, right, so we're supposed to continue to support people outside of our community that are giving us nothing but disrespect. Well, you support people in the community that gives you disrespect. The thing is, it comes down to what standard do you have, and does that standard colored base? In other words, if you can take disrespect from people that look like you, then it shouldn't be problematic if you're getting the same type of disrespect from people that don't look like you. What I am saying is you shouldn't tolerate disrespect regardless. It doesn't matter. You understand what I'm saying? Have real expectations when you're going into a business, real that make sense, that are sensible. In other words, there are many stories out here of black businesses where, I've already seen during this whole drive that the first thing that a lot of black folks are asking is for a discount. Well, that's not sensible. That's not a sensible request from a customer that's understanding how economics works. That's not how it works. You don't go in there and just because they look like you that you automatically get the black discount. That's not how business works. Business doesn't grow that way. All right. I'm just going through some of the comments here since the phone is quiet again. I'm just looking to see if I missed anybody. All right, I'll give it about another minute. Give people time to call in, and then after that, that's it. But when I tell you this literally always happens, it always does. Because, see, I live in the real world, and I talk to real people. I don't be hiding behind comments and all of that other stuff. I want to sit down at the table of people who don't agree. I want that to happen, but I want to talk to people human to human, not behind keyboards or anything like that. Let's conversate. Let's talk. And that's why I rarely do these kind of things like this anyway, because this is usually what happens. So I'm just going to leave it at that, y'all. I'm not going to continue to waste any of your time, but I just wanted to give some perspective on, you know, the economy, how these economies work, and why is it that these boycotts similarly are just, it's just noise. That's all it is. It's noise at the end of the day. And unless the family structure gets stronger and it gets repaired within our own, what we call our communities, then there is no long-lasting hope for black-owned businesses that target exclusively on black people. Okay? The businesses, the black-owned businesses that will survive are businesses that will focus on black folks, but they also look at other groups as well and focus on them. Those are going to be the businesses that are going to thrive and to continue to grow. Okay? So I'll leave it at that. Any other comments? Someone said, Justice said, I see good canned food products sold in several grocery stores in my area. Never knew they were black owned. Yeah. And that's really the point. You know what I mean? Not to hide your blackness, but not to necessarily feel like you have to lead with it. You know what I'm saying? Just focus on putting out the best product and best service you can. And that's what draws people in. You know what I mean? When you do that, you'll always have good customers. That's the key. All right. So that's it. That's all I have for you. You know, if you're more comfortable just leaving a comment in the comment section, that's fine. But I will say this, though. I will say this. I am not going to engage in any long back and forth with anybody, especially if you saw this video in the comment section. I will not, because I've literally given you the opportunity to call in and we can conversate. But if you choose not to do that, don't waste. You're not going to waste any more of my time. All right. So that's it. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. You guys take care. We'll be talking again soon. Take care.